strengthen our inner man and subdue our outer nature. Sometimes we win, but sometimes, too, we lose. The greatest battle that we will ever fight is not against an outward being, but against ourselves. I realized that I had been sitting with Samson a while, and I still hadn't asked him my important question. I said, Samson, can God use me? Samson sat quiet for a long time and said, Fannie, I have lived my whole life for God. From before I was born, I was set aside for his service. God took me, the son of a barren mother, and made me into a great leader. God took me, the son of a poor farmer, and made me into a great soldier. God took me, the fallen man that I am, and found a way to mold me for his service. Through every mountain, he brought me over. Through every trial, he's seen me through. And so even though you see what I look like today, I still have to give him praise. So when you ask me, Fannie, can God use you? Well, I have to tell you that I believe. And at that moment, the cell door creaked open and a guard entered. The guard seemed not to see me, but he unloosed the chains on Samson's ankles that bound him to the wall and took him away. Samson, I called, wait, tell me what you believe. Can God use me? But he was gone. And after all of this, I still didn't have my answer. When you question yourself and you have to ask, can God use me? I'm here to tell you resoundingly that the answer is yes. After that day, I was standing on the horizon looking over the edge of time, and I heard a terrible noise. The pillars in the temple were being pulled from their foundation, and the temple roof was falling in. And one last act of valor and justice, Samson used his last breath for God. Despite his weakness, his story did not end in that dungeon. God still loved Samson, and God still used him. Samson is still a biblical symbol of a great man of faith. In Hebrews 11, Paul mentions him in the great roll call of the faithful. He ranks with Moses, Elijah, and Rahab. So even after all that he went through, all of his falls and faults, after all that he had endured, given up, and let go, despite his fallen, sinful nature, the answer is yes. God can still use you. I stopped by today to share this story with you because I want you to know that it's not about you. See, I know that you've done some things and you said some things. You've been some places and seen some things, but it's not about you. You've thought some things you shouldn't have thought, but it's not about you. It's about God. It's not about who you are, but whose you are. It's not about what you've done, but what God can do. It's not about where you've been, but where God is taking you. It's not about what you're missing, but what God's got. See, we've got to do our part, but even with the little we have, if we give it over to God's hand, he can work it out. Because it all depends whose hands it's in. See, I have to tell you that a basketball in my hand is worth about $20, but a basketball in the hand of Kobe Bryant is worth $61 million. It all depends on whose hands it's in. A baseball in my hands is worth $6, but in the hands of Alex Rodriguez, it's worth about $31 million, you see. It all depends on whose hands it's in. A tennis racket in my hand is a fun afternoon, but in the hands of Venus Williams, it's a Wimbledon championship. It all depends on whose hands it is. A slingshot in my hand is a child's toy, but a slingshot in losing battle can become a war won, and a sinner lost can be saved by grace. It all depends on whose hands it's in. Can God use you? Yes. Can God use me? Yes. If you just hold to his hand.